Welcome to the Crimeycade. I'm the mad conservative crime fighter, and back again after 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, last week. Been quite a ride the last 24 hours, and ugh. So my guest is coming a bit later, so I have a half hour to talk a little bit before my guest comes in because I need to speak my piece before he comes in because he does not want to talk about the subject matter that I'm going to cover right now. And no, I'm not looking to make this a political talk show. However, if you're a gamer, you know there's been several encroachments into the gaming scene of late because, you know, people are cutting their cords, people are going to streaming, people are playing more games than ever before, and maybe not watching the news, certainly using social media. And when you got a message and a narrative to pass to influence young minds, you have to use whatever new mediums are out there to reach them. And it is no secret that gaming has been used of late to push political messaging. I've talked about it in the past. We've been given multiple games from AAA studios who incorporated a bunch of messaging that is either out of place or isn't desired. But they keep maintaining that they're making these games for the modern audience, which in actuality, it's their preferred audience. They don't want just any particular gamer playing it. They want gamers playing the games that hold the same political viewpoints as they do, the developers. They want people who think exactly like they do. That's the preferred audience. It's not the modern audience. They have no idea what the modern audience is. They claim, well, this is the modern audience. No, it's not the modern audience. The modern audience plays video games to escape the real world. That's what the modern audience desires. But these politically charged developers who see gaming as a new avenue to preach to people, they incorporate their messages in the games. They hope they influence some young minds to persuade them to think exactly like they do. And then they get really angry and bitter when the game flops and flops hard because people aren't going to buy them. People aren't buying those games. Now, we've already had a few examples of that. Everybody remembers Concord last year. Massive flop in development for several years. This was going to be the next Star Wars franchise that Sony was gonna make millions of dollars off of for years to come on this franchise. Didn't even last 2 weeks. And they lost almost $500 million on it. And why did they lose so much money? Is because the game wasn't that great. It was just average. It wasn't superior to Fortnite or PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds or Call of Duty for that matter. Although Call of Duty has its own issues. The characters, people don't want to play as an ugly protagonist. Characters with the charisma of a damn dirty rag. No, they don't want to play. They don't want to play as an ugly character either. But these game designers want to make games that kind of basically feature people like them, outcasts, unattractive, uncharismatic. It's like they want to have that celebrity status, but they can't get it because they don't have the looks, the talent, or the charisma to be to get to that famous get that famous tag on them. So yes, gaming has been under assault of late, and unfortunately, what happened in the last 24 hours? I mean, and that's just one aspect. Last few weeks, you probably have heard, and Smash GT and Vera Dark and let's say Hypnotic. Who else? Aspen Gold, probably Camelot 331 has been probably covering this extensively. The attacks on gaming and basically, yeah, and foreign countries getting involved, their governments getting involved, telling people what games they can play, what games they can buy. And they're Great Britain, Brazil, Australia, all involved in this. Australia with this feminist group who its founder is just mad that I guess a potential suitor chose to look at a I don't know a girly magazine over her, or was rejected in favor of like looking at a girly magazine or something. And this activist and their cohorts, known as Collective Shout, have been running around the internet trying to pressure companies to deny hosting, purchasing of games with problematic content. So, a horror game that you want to buy that stream on Halloween, try to buy it with Visa or MasterCard or maybe PayPal, your transaction may be potentially denied because you bought the wrong game and that game you're trying to buy is offensive to somebody. And thus, we can't allow you to buy that. Visa's new slogan is, "It's everywhere we tell you to be." I guess MasterCard could call their new slogan, there are some things we can't allow you to buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. That should be their new slogan because that's what they're doing. And earlier this week that Visa, I guess one of their officials or higher management types says they want to influence the gaming culture. They want to get directly involved in the gaming culture and change and shape it to how they see it. Yeah, that's going to go over like a lead balloon. I mentioned Brazil and Great Britain. I mean, yes, this feminist group, Collective Shout, they're under a tremendous amount of heat because, the gamers revolted. They called them out over and over and over, and they're trying to hide behind their protected tweets button or just trying to throw blame at other people, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, They started this, and they seem to be unwilling to finish it. We have over in Great Britain where Tracy Gleave lives, and we had a comedian arrested when he got off the airplane because the government of what's his name, Keith Starmer, was pissed off at a joke he told. Arrested a comedian when he got off a plane. Now he's been given political asylum in America over that. The so-called Online Safety Act. Yeah, Australia has their version. Britain passed their own. And they're trying to force their law on the entire world. You know, there's been all the chatter about over the years, one world government. They're trying to get a one world government. Great Britain's trying to pass laws that apply to the entire world. That's what this Online Safety Act is. So if you want to buy that video game, that horror game, or criminal investigation game, or whatever it is, we'll just use this. The next Resident Evil, let's just say that, might have sexual content. It certainly has graphic, violent content. You're being denied. They want to deny you the right to purchase that game and play it on in the privacy of your own home, or let's say stream it on Twitch, for example, because it's got problematic content that hurts the feelings of certain people, the sensitivities of certain people. You can't play that game. We can't allow you to buy that game. If you do buy that, manage to succeed in buying that game, we're going to put you on the list. We're going to maybe pay a visit to your doorstep. We might, I don't know, cancel your PayPal account. Now, the governments will do some things, and the private business, in collusion with the private business, the payment processors, kind of implement their de facto social crediting scoring. Because you wanted to play a video game that had problematic content. Yeah, it's fiction, but I mean, the poster child for this right now is a game called Mouthwashing, which I haven't even heard of, but it's a futuristic, or I guess it's a science fiction horror game. Psychological terror and stuff. It depicts psychological terror, hallucinations. Yes, there's sexual content. Yes, there's violent content. Yes, there's graphic violent content in this game. Itch.io actually delisted this game for a while because they were going to be in trouble with the payment processors. Visa, MasterCard, the acquiring banks for PayPal, whoever they are. I didn't know PayPal was even for sale. Some bank acquired PayPal apparently recently, but I haven't heard anything about who bought them. Their policy says, oh, you can't sell offensive content. You can't sell stuff, sell video games that has offensive content on it. What about movies? Hollywood movies. There's plenty of R-rated movies out there. Are they gonna? So if you want to buy, I don't know, a copy of, I don't know. Let's see what is. I'll just say the most recent Friday the 13th movie. What if Visa MasterCard says you can't buy a copy of that on Blu-ray because of problematic content? You know how high of an uproar that would lead to from Hollywood. Hollywood actors would be on the air constantly hounding the CEO of MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, whoever else, demanding they drop that policy or else. Think they don't have influence? They're attacking, they're attacking gaming because they think that is a softer target. Sure, gaming has grown exponentially. Hollywood actors have been involved in the creation of video games. Several actors in Mortal Kombat are famous people you know. Jean-Claude Van Damme lent his voice acting to Johnny Cage. John Cena's in there. Ronda Rousey's in there. Been several. Megan Fox voices Nintara. I mean, they'd be crying, holy hell, if payment processors was declining sales of their movies to customers. I mean, I've gotten the gaming side, yes. It's just a front in a war. There's just pretty much, oh yeah, let me go with this. Brazil. Some Brazilian judge thinks his court rulings apply to the entire planet outside of its borders for similar things. Problematic content violates the Online Safety Act. You can't sell that. My order applies to the entire world, not just Brazil. This judge is so arrogant, so power drunk. Besides kicking candidates off ballots that they don't agree with, they're trying to de facto a law to apply to the entire planet. Because this one judge, who is not accountable to America, not accountable to anybody, but not accountable to anybody outside his border, thinks he can dictate to the entire world what we can and can't do. Yeah, come over to the United States and try and enforce your order. You're going to get arrested and then deported and basically have your passport stripped from you. Now, like I said, there's been a major attack on freedom of speech. Gaming is just one major front in that war. And yes, yesterday, you can disagree with somebody. You can express an opinion. You can disagree with that opinion. It doesn't give you the right to take someone's life. And unfortunately, we're in a climate now where it's like, I mean, we've been dealing with cancel culture the last several years. We've already been through a war over COVID and basically social media companies trying to censor any dissenting opinion or alternative views on how to treat the virus, how to treat the illness. And there was a financial ulterior motive. Big financial ulterior motive. When money's involved, well, it kind of cuts both ways. The payment processors are just giving your money to somebody. But if somebody stands to make billions of dollars off something, they're going to try to shut down anything that's a threat to that. And yes, the subject matter that was being discussed at the time when that shot rang out, there's people who stand to make billions of dollars they see it. They have their cash cow, and they stand to make billions of dollars. They want to make billions of dollars off of it, and they are not going to stand for anybody getting in their way. Uh, we have an issue where we have a lot of people running around, and yes, they're in the gaming industry too. They're developers. They're editors of gaming journalists. The founder of Kotaku got flagged for glorifying the incident yesterday. There's been several there's some game that was cited earlier today. He said something stupid online, and I think Smash JT highlighted it earlier today or last night that this game is dead to me now. I'm going to find that game real quick. My guest is going to be coming in a minute now, so I do got to wrap this up before he comes in because he does not want to talk about this. Oh, that's what it is. Ghost of Yotai, the developer of that, said some foul things online about the incident yesterday. And he's going to regret ever saying that because there's going to be a lot of gamers that will not buy that game ever again or stop playing it altogether. The great thing about the gaming world is, or at least the consumers in gaming, they have done a great job trying to keep the politics out of gaming and policing it. These developers that are trying to incorporate their political messaging in games, they make sure that those games bomb and bomb hard, and those studios that produce them go bankrupt and out of business. And there's been several of those over the last year. Dustborn, yeah, that studio's out of business. Obviously, Concord, Fireworks Studios, out of business. I should look up some more. Gaming studios closed 2025. The gaming studios have closed in 2025. The Initiative, Itstra Games, Midnight Society, Cliffhanger Games, Paladin Studios, First Contact, Phoenix Labs, Ridgeline Games, Counterplay Games. I mean, we're living in the worst. We have the most technology advanced gaming systems, but the worst. We seem to be living in one of the worst eras of gaming right now. If you're not gaming to have fun, you really shouldn't be gaming. You should I don't know, code business apps. Okay, my guest has arrived, so I'm going to take a hard break, and I'll introduce my guest after I come out of the break. And stay tuned. I will be right back. You're listening to the Crimeycade podcast on Twitch and Facebook. Welcome back to the Crimeycade podcast. Now that I've gotten my angst out of the system, and I'm going to do the proper opening of this pod. So, last week, and now I got to pull this back up. There we go. Last week we had on a podcast Gottlieb arcade designer Tom Malinowski. We talked about Argus and the Three Stooges and some other games that he was involved in, some early computing technology, and he also had involvement, electronic chess game. So that was last week. Went for 2 hours. Doesn't get as much attention as Jeff Lee. He worked under Jeff Lee, but go back to listen to that podcast. You can kind of learn some lore about Argus and how it's developed over the years. And kind of an interesting discussion. And I want to thank him for coming in last week. Well, I already talked about this. I want to make a parody ad. Kind of lampooning the Visa and MasterCard commercials, and I haven't had time because I had to worry about a wrestling show this weekend. So maybe next week I will make something because I think I think it'll be hilarious doing a proper parody. Anyway, well, I forgot to mention last week, and I kind of alluded to it, the Bloody Wars Championship has changed hands. JP Pitts won the Bloody Wars titles after winning the Power Stone tournament. Well, you would have thought that he'd be defending those titles at the Tekken 8 tournament. Boy, I gotta look where I'm pointing here because it's like I should be pointing to the left. See that Tekken 8 in the corner? Yeah. You'd think he'd be defending those titles at the Tekken 8 tournament. No! He decided to spur the moment to defend his titles on Street Fighter 2 Grandmaster Challenge. I think it was just defending the titles on just that game on a best of 5. I think he should have defended those belts in a best of 7 on 7 different arcade fighting games in the arcade, not just one. So Damian Cordova is the new Bloody Wars champion. He has both belts. This is the first time he's held the titles. He's been trying to win them over the last couple of years, but usually stopped by one Norbert Vale. So congratulations, Damian Cordova. Sunday, September 21st, Tekken 8 will be at the Headless Horseman, and Waku Waku 7, which is a Neo Geo fighting game, will be happening September 28th at 8 o'clock or 3 p.m. at the Galloping Ghost Arcade. Headless Horseman is up in Wheeling, Illinois, but I'm probably going to do Waku Waku 7. That was the game that Aiden Cordova, in winning the MVP of the year, wanted as the fighting game. So, all right. I think that was the last slide I wanted to put up. I'll say this on the other side. I did attend this last weekend. I want to talk about it, but I'm going to put it on the other side because I think it's time to bring in our guest right now. And he was at the KC Retro. That's how I arranged to, let me look at this for 1 second. I got messaged. I wonder what that was all about. Sorry. I thought I got a distressing message on Facebook. Had just happened to see it. Thankfully, it was an somewhat old message, although I don't know why it was popping up now. Anyway, my guest at this time, he is the retro game hunter and he's got multiple sites. However, I will have him explain when he comes in, because if you go to these sites here, there's something missing. I'll let him explain when he comes in. But welcome into the Crimeycade podcast, Joe Sullivan.
Hey, good. Yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and hang out with you a bit.
So we met each other at the KC Retro. You're upstairs. That was the first time I trekked out to KC. I thought I had been there before, but apparently not. At least I don't remember. I may have just skirted by, but never entered the city itself. I think I know what I did. I rode on Route 36 with family because we're going to Omaha, Nebraska instead. But we didn't go towards Kansas City. But now I've been to there. And then crossed the border and went into Kansas to say I've touched Kansas. Crossed another state off of my list, I guess. Although I haven't gone very far west other than what's along the Mississippi River. Texas. Well, that's also included.
Yeah.
But... So, tell me about yourself.
Yeah. So, again, Retro Game Hunter here. So I am an avid collector, and I love especially like gaming history and like weird gaming stories, the kinds of things that maybe you read about online, but maybe you don't get a chance to really try or play in person. And back in 2015, I worked with a convention, a startup video game convention in Oklahoma City called Super BitCon. And a lot of us there, like, we really just wanted to make a really cool swap meet, and we had some contacts with a few YouTubers, and we were lucky enough. We had Thor, Nintendo World Championships Thor, come out and do a panel and talk about that whole experience too, which was a lot of fun. But
I still want to meet him.
Oh, he's fantastic.
When was this?
This was at Super BitCon in Oklahoma City back in 2015.
Okay, that was a while back.
Yep.
Okay.
So. But I knew a few of the other collectors in the area, and we all had some like really cool kind of unique pieces, or the sorts of things, again, that like, collectors just like love, even just getting a chance to see, even if you don't actually own it, but just like, holy cow, like that's a blah, 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 and so we put everything together. We had one kind of glass display showcase, and we created our first little like museum there. And it was really popular. One of the best parts of the show, from what we heard from a lot of people. And the next year, we moved from a building that was roughly, I think it was like 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. We moved to a building that was 66,000 square feet. And the museum grew to a roughly 20 by 40 foot footprint. And we just loaded it up with like cool stuff from history, but again, not like, oh, in 1985 the Nintendo Entertainment System was released. Again, we wanted to find like the really cool, strange stories, and the things, again, like that second Super BitCon show. I remember we had both of the Super Nintendo exercise bikes. We had like the home model and the commercial gym model both out there, and people like had never seen these before, and they just thought
I haven't either.
That was like the weirdest, most bizarre thing. That was a big hit. And so from there, some of the folks from a convention down in Texas, which is the Let's Play Gaming Expo, which unfortunately is no longer, but they saw what we were doing. I actually got one of our guests canceled, and they said, "Hey, Joe, like, you're really great with like talking about this. Just grab some items from the museum and go do a panel right now and just talk about some stuff." And so I took a few things out there with me. Including at the time a Yager AP-74 assault rifle that was modified to work with a Super Nintendo, the multi-purpose arcade combat simulator, another one of those really weird things. So, again, walking around a convention hall carrying a rifle, I got a lot of looks as I was heading towards the panel stage. But
yeah, it probably was a gun-free zone, and it's like no gun, no firearms allowed, including toys.
So we were able to make that work out okay, and I just kind of sat down and talked about a handful of these items. And again, a few of the folks from Let's Play were in the audience there, and they approached me afterwards, said, "Hey, can you come down to our show and just like do exactly what you did here, set up some cool stuff, talk to folks, and just provide like additional content, additional value for our attendees." And it took off from there. And since, we've been guests at shows. So Super BitCon, unfortunately, is no more. It died 4 years in the most Oklahoma way you can possibly imagine, which is a tornado hit the fairgrounds on the weekend of the event. It is pretty well chronicled, actually. Brett Weist has a great video on it as well, just to plug some of his reporting and journalism on it, where the tornado literally hit on Saturday, and the fairgrounds was part of ground zero for the tornado, but it got it cleaned up enough that they did open on Sunday. And but by then it was a mess, and the show was never financially able to recover, and it still to this day, unfortunately, has not come back. But the museum exhibit has been alive and well. We did separate it officially from Super BitCon, and I have grown it to where, and again, we've been guests from Florida to California and everywhere in between. We've done SoCal, we've done what's turned into Really Rad Weekend back when it used to be Emerald Coast Con. We set up at Game On in Arizona, done a bunch of shows in Texas and Kansas City. And again, just really, really all over the place. And what we specialize in is a lot of that weird kind of stuff. We make a point not to advertise what we have, because we think it's a lot more fun for the wow factor to not know what you're going to see if we're setting up there. But I also discovered along the way that and I've been to great shows across the board and seen a lot of awesome museum displays. And what really makes something effective, though, what really makes it pop, is actually having an enthusiastic, positive attitude staff member just to kind of walk people through the stuff. And we've discovered I've got placards for every single item that we have on display, but I could just read the placard to somebody and you're going to feed off of my enthusiasm, and that's going to create a better experience for you as the attendee. And so we've made that a very, very big point to always have every show we do, we always have somebody there that can just kind of share those experiences and get folks hyped up and interested in the kinds of things, that we have out there. Some of our more popular items, which again, I'll share a few with you and your listeners right now, but the Game Boy sewing machine is always a huge hit. And we have a complete in box one in our collection. And we'll bring it out, and people from across a hall will be like, why is there a sewing machine on the table at a video game convention? And we've got it set up on a little Lazy Susan, so we can spin it around. We show them where the hardwired. Yeah.
Why do you think there's these out there? There's a lot of these out there.
Yes, there are.
I bought a ton of this to make some of the pixel art.
So, and just, you got me on a quick tangent. I just got to give mad props to my wife, who I love dearly, who let me decorate our Christmas tree last year with video game perlers. So we had an 8 and 16-bit Christmas tree from top to bottom that included multiple falling Tetris pieces, tons of Mega Men, a whole slew of Pokemon, Marios, Final Fantasy characters near and dear to my heart. So yeah, we're a very big perler family too, and we really enjoy making some of those together. But back to the museum stuff. We've since also kind of expanded out. I have panels that I've done at shows as well that go into more weird, obscure gaming history. We've recently launched. We have a whole trivia challenge game show as well that we're starting to do at shows, where I'm hosting. It's a roughly 400 question trivia challenge in about 15 different categories. It's set up to be very interactive, and just people can just walk right up and come play with it. We've got
that's funny because I don't. She was out there too. Nintendo Land. Mindy. Missouri Game Con, she did some trivia contest, and I took on the arcade stuff. And then come to find out, the questions were generated by AI, and they were not 100% accurate.
Yeah.
So I went and typed up some questions of my own. I'm going to give it to her sooner or later if she ever needs to, but I can fire a few. I have a few of these ready to fire it. See if you could answer some of these.
So yeah, I wrote every one of the trivia questions myself, no AI included. And I'll say we got a lot of creative categories too, and we tried to have a lot of variety. It wasn't just straight like question answer trivia, but we
Yeah.
also had like scrambled letters that slowly unscramble to create like a character name. We have like
Yeah.
super fuzzy box art that slowly becomes more clear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
one of the categories I was a little happier that we call it being cheeky, and it's a close up of like a video game character's butt, and you have to identify the character. So we try to have a lot of
What?
we have a lot of variety, and it gives
Oh
us the
my.
opportunity to have lots of laughs and just make it a fun, low threat, easy kind of environment for people to kind of get together, laugh, and then we give a trophy to the winner every time. So
So, okay, so you got a little bit of tangent. So you had the Game Boy controlled sewing machine.
yes, yep.
Um, what else do you have?
So the Game Boy sewing machine, believe it or not, was not super popular in the US. It was a combination venture between Nintendo and Singer in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It came bundled with a teal Game Boy Color that had a special Singer Game Boy Color software cartridge. And what it
Yeah.
allowed you to do, it had a hardwired connection to the sewing machine that enabled you to pick different stitch styles and like you can, some very basic controls. Now, it was not like a full-fledged embroidery machine, but again, it gave you just this kind of very rudimentary set of options for, again, at the end of the day, really selecting some stitch styles. Now, in Japan, the company that Nintendo partnered with was Jaguar, not of the Atari Jaguar fame, but the Jaguar is a popular sewing machine company in Japan that's been around forever.
Not the car
That was
maker either.
yeah. Also, not the car maker. It's not one of those Mitsubishi or Yamaha situations where they just have their fingers in everything. Um, but so the Jaguar had a game like a similar Game Boy sewing machine in Japan, but they actually released what I'm calling like a sequel out there. There
Mm-hmm.
was a full-fledged machine called the Nuoto that was a full-fledged embroidery machine,
Right.
and it had an accessory with it that again it had a hardwired connect, like the Game Boy literally mounts into the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And when you use these special cartridges, you got to pick an image and you would like basically hit start and it would tell you which color threads to load up and it would embroider that image into your fabric. Now, most interesting part of all this was Nintendo released, and I call this the rarest Mario game that's ever been made. And game is a term I use loosely here. There was a cartridge for this called Mario Family. And Mario Family was using this embroidery machine. It was a series of Mario characters, items, images, stuff like that.
Now I
That
gotta look it
again,
up
you
while
picked
you're
your
talking.
yeah, you picked your image, and it would embroider that right into your fabric. Now Nintendo realized that giving people the means to create unlimited amounts of licensed merchandise really is not how they like to do business.
Mm-hmm.
So that very quickly, that card has become absolutely scarce. It is extraordinarily difficult to find. Um, and but again, as far as like weird, goofy Mario history, it is way up there. Most people don't know a sewing machine exists, but the fact again that there was a special Mario Kart.
Hold on. Sorry, I heard
Yeah.
music a second.
Okay.
I actually have this up now. Stop sharing. Share window. Share screen. Got this over here. This that
There it
looked like
is.
it. Yeah.
So again, this is an absolutely scarce item. I was lucky enough to live in Japan for about 2 years, and we hit up a ton of stores while we were out there, including all the big ones like in Akihabara, your Super Potatoes, your Mandarakes, stuff like that. And we hunted for this cart hard while we were out there, but we had absolutely zero luck the entire time we were in Japan getting even a sniff of it. Um, it
Looks like
wasn't
this
until
is
we
just a music track. I thought it was going to display how the thing operated, but unless I can find it somewhere else. Nope, it's not there. Oh, wait a minute.
oh, yep,
Oh,
there it
there it
is.
is. Glad I found it.
So the ROM of this has been dumped. So
Mm-hmm.
it is out there. Not that I would endorse flashcards, but right there, that's the Nuoto with the embroidery attachment that again most people don't realize existed. Um, there was a Kirby cart that never was released as well that I think also has been dumped. But
Yeah, because there was all this deal about Kirby's Yarn or something.
So I mean, there was Kirby's Epic Yarn, for Wii. That came out, or yeah, it was Wii. That came out a lot later than this, though.
Yeah, I could figure that. And then the Woolly Yoshi game,
Mm-hmm.
where it's basically Yarn created Yoshis that were like 3D models.
Yep. But it's
Nintendo
pretty...
didn't think it could make money off of this. I
They...
mean, do they not know how big of a crafting community there is?
Oh yeah. And I agree with you. Like this is huge right here for the folks that can figure it out and get their hands on it. Again, though, like this is, and I'm not a spokesperson for Nintendo, but like I imagine, they're giving people by virtue of owning this cart permission to embroider these images. And what is that crafting community going to do with these images that they embroider? Take them to shows, sell them. They do them. Somebody set one of these up like at a show and just say, hey, we're just going to use this cart and live embroider some stuff. Like people pay money to watch that. And so Nintendo...
Yeah, and they make it, but they can still make stuff with this.
Yep.
And they can just find the patterns online and iron and just drop them on a grid and then iron over top of them and then like boom. But Nintendo kind of passed up some money here.
Oh, in fairness, Nintendo has licensed perler sets for Mario 3 and the original NES Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, I did see that. And so here's another video. This is who's this lady? It's Retro Recipes in Commodore. Yeah, so this is another demo video on that. Anyway, but this I'll just show a few seconds of this, but I'm not going to besmirch what they do. But
so that is the North American Game Boy sewing machine. That is the singer Isaac, Izak.
Yeah, I'm going to hide this now because I don't want to get copyright claimed later. Fair use, by the way. You better respect the fair use provisions. Anyway, but I'll watch this later. That was interesting. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'd say we've so the sewing machine actually has been one of our staple items that we typically bring out to shows just because it's generalist. We didn't bring it out to KC Retro. We tried to give it a little bit of a break and mix it up. Which kind of brings me to, so like the inventory, like what do we have available? And the museum really is a collection from like multiple people's personal collections. It's not just mine. I do have quite a few pieces that are part of the displays that we bring out. But at the end of the day, we have roughly 24 or so high-end collectors from around the country who have offered me the ability to kind of tap into their collections based on where I'm doing shows at. And it makes it very easy to have a pretty varied inventory based on, where I'm going and where I'm going to be at, and really also ensure that like no two shows that we do will ever be the same, which is also something I take a lot of pride in. I draw up very, very intricate diagrams for every display that we do, down to like this is the location of every single item that we're going to have on there, and I save those for every show again so that we can make sure every time you're coming out you're getting again a fresh and a new experience, which is very important to me.
How big is your collection?
So my personal collection used to be about 5,000 games strong. But when I moved to Japan, we put everything up in storage. We couldn't bring it with us. And we knew we weren't going to have the room for all of that. And when we came back, it was brought out of storage and delivered to our house where I was living out in California at the time. And I had never felt so overwhelmed in my life. All of this stuff that just kind of got dropped right back in my lap. And I love gaming, but we had everything from, Atari 2600 titles up to like hundreds of NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, GameCube, Jaguar, TurboGrafx, like every kind of major console kind of stepping on up there. So with that, I decided at the time, at least for like my personal collection stuff, it was time to just kind of clear out the stuff I knew I wasn't going to play. So we started selling a lot of it off, and we're probably down to around 1,000 or so games left. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, what I'm still actively collecting for is stuff that is cool, weird, or rare that I could turn into like a museum display or exhibit, something that has a cool story that I can share with people.
Mm-hmm.
I am also a Neo Geo collector. I'm an AES guy. I'm sorry, I'm one of those people. I did hear you talking about Waku Waku 7 earlier, and I grabbed my copy off the shelf here real quick. So I've got a soft spot for the AES still as well. But at the end of the day, the thing that I get really excited about now, again, are the really cool gaming stories. I've also pivoted a little bit to focus on things like gaming music. I love soundtracks. I probably have one of the largest collections of licensed video game sheet music probably in the world. I've got a few hundred books of, again, like licensed official music. It was all over the place in Japan, including there's quite a few really rare ones. Some of the rarest books I have a score, an original. It almost looks like it's a pencil drawn score that was printed in a small book, about that big, for the original Castlevania and the original Gradius. And like seeing the elements that went into that, it's just like, from a musician standpoint, it's fascinating and I love it. So
Let me go back all the way to the beginning.
yeah.
Because you talked about you lived in Japan, and I'm going to have to cover that because I didn't know that. So let's go to the very beginning. What was the hook? What got you into gaming? For me, it's Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Since I was a child of the 80s, and of course that was a 70s release, but I was like 9 when I played it for the first time.
So as a kid growing up in the 80s also, so I guess it started with, so my dad was a ham radio operator, and we would go all the time. Like, I go to a ton of video game conventions now. With him, it was going to these, they're called ham fests, if you're not familiar with them. And these are...
My stepfather is a ham radio operator, and yes, I've gone to ham fests, plenty of ham fests, and usually find electronics I'm looking for there. There's video games and consoles for sale at ham fests a lot of times, but if you need parts for things, you might find it there as well.
So for any of your viewers, that don't know about them, they're basically gigantic outdoor flea markets, typically focused on amateur radio and things like that. But one year, I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, my dad let me get an Atari 400. And we got that in about 5 or 6 carts. And, I was hooked. I loved it. We actually never had a Nintendo Entertainment System, and we skipped right to the Sega Genesis after that. And I just absolutely loved games. I kind of put things away a little bit for a while, and I didn't really get super into collecting until around 20 years ago, where I had a pretty good promotion at work, and my wife, she said, well, what's your favorite video game? Like, you should go get a nice copy of your favorite video game, which was her famous, mistake, I guess she would probably say. So my all-time favorite video game is Final Fantasy 3 for Super Nintendo, the US release, Final Fantasy 6 in Japan, of course. And so we bought a really nice complete in-box version of that, just to take me right back to my childhood. It still is my favorite game of all time to this day. Absolutely love everything about it. And from there, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll get this one. It just kind of kept sort of growing. And then I began stumbling upon things as well. And then I started researching the history of the weird stuff and the rare things. And one of the ones that caught my eye that I was looking for forever was I saw the story of the Exertainment Mountain Bike Rally Speed Racer combo cart for Super Nintendo, which again, for those not familiar, that was a specialized cart that worked with the exercise bikes. And the rumor is that the 2-in-1 combo cart with Speed Racer and the Exertainment Mountain Bike Rally only came bundled with a commercial gym bike model. It wasn't something that was normally available. That's the rumor. I have not been able to confirm that in the people that I've talked to, but it is extraordinarily rare, super hard to find. I'd been looking for this cart for years. I'm down in Pensacola, Florida for about a month, and I hit a flea market up. And that flea market there, they had a bunch of video game vendors, but there was one in particular, and this was one of those vendors that anything that was Mario or Nintendo was 3 or 4 times the market value, because it's a Mario item, so it's got to be worth a ton. And he I was just flipping through his carts, and sure enough, just this dusty title, there it was, the Super Mario or the Mountain Bike Rally Entertainment Speed Racer combo cart. I was like, cool. Like, oh, I'm cool. How much for this cart? I'm trying not to get too excited about it. It's clearly been sitting there a long time. He's like, oh, $10. And in one of my less proud moments, I said, oh, would you take 8? And he said, oh, I think we're good with 10. I said, okay, cool. I'll take it for 10. Thank you so much. It was in beautiful shape. I came back to that vendor the next weekend, and there was another one at this guy's booth, and I gave him $10, and that was the end of it. So I walked out of that trip to Pensacola with 2 copies of that combo cart, which at the time the market value was probably around $1,200 to $1,400.
12. So you bought a $10 for a cart that was worth how much?
At the time, like the nicer condition label one was worth about $1,400.
So this seller did not know what he had.
He did not. Well, again, he thought he had a bunch of really expensive Mario items, and like I said, he was charging 3 or 4 times the normal value for that kind of stuff. So I still have a lot of friends in the Pensacola area and the whole like Gulf part of Florida there, and it's a story everybody still kind of laughs about.
Wow.
But I still have one of those carts, the nicer label cart. I still have in my personal collection. The other cart I traded for around $500 of a like nice complete in box games for my personal collection and a Nintendo 64 kiosk.
Ah, okay. So what was the very first video game you ever played?
First one was probably Frogger on the Atari 400.
Now, did you see it ahead of time before you played it on the Atari 400, or you just, something drew your attention to it?
So I was just glad to have a video game in the house as a kid, much to my mom's disappointment. The fact that my dad was willing to let me do that. So they came in, that, like I said, we picked that up at the Hamfest in a bundle. It was Frogger, I think it was Quicks, Q*bert, and maybe like Star Commander.
Okay.
And I could never figure out Star Commander. I did eventually figure out Quicks and Q*bert. But Frogger was the one that kind of like stood out in my mind, that I definitely have a lot of the memories of. Now, we did play
it. First arcade game?
So the first arcade game I remember playing was Ghouls and Ghosts, or maybe Ghosts and Goblins. It was one of those just like super hard, like you shouldn't be playing this if you're a small child, like you're just going to lose very quickly. And they had one of those arcade cabinets at the hardware store that my dad liked to go to. So he would convince me to go to the hardware store with him, that he would give me a quarter so that I could play the arcade game after I walked around for like an hour with him. And so that always kind of stood out. That, and then of course I have tons of fond memories of like Ninja Turtles, and X-Men arcade game has a very special place in my heart. And Punisher also was one I remember playing as like a kid back in like 92, 93 that like I just absolutely loved.
Okay. Now when you started, I guess, this collection, what was what inspired you to start collecting the rare and obscure?
So part of it started with, again, just learning about kind of what was the rare and obscure. And I started with just looking at like price charting and sorting games by what is the most valuable game, for each of these consoles. Once I figured out what that was, I kind of would just pull the thread a little bit and it's like, okay, so why is this the most valuable game now for the consoles? And I figured too, like if I was going to start like seriously collecting, then it made more sense to go after the really expensive stuff early, because that was the kind of stuff I saw that was going to keep going up in value. And the sooner I can get that stuff locked down, the better off I'd be. So once I did that and I started learning more about like, what is the multi-purpose arcade comet, this Max cart that like never sells and doesn't appear anywhere. Like what is going on with this? Where is this from? Led me down just, again, starting to really hunt for those kinds of things. With that, it turns out most of those things do have the fascinating stories. And then Googling some of the articles out there, maybe at the time, I don't know, it was Ask Jeevesing, I don't know. Some of these.
I remember that. Ask Jeeves. I don't think it still exists. I guess it was the early day version of the AI Google Assistant or something.
And just like seeing some of these stories that a lot of the other, authors and like internet, video game editorializers have put out there. Like, these are some of the things that we think are the rarest, and just again trying to figure out those stories. The multi-purpose arcade combat simulator stuff, that was the Super Nintendo cartridge that was designed for the military to use for their rifle marksmanship. That's something that I really locked in on, and I've kind of become one of the foremost kind of people on that. I've opened up about 20 different carts. I've probably seen more. I've had more in my hands than most of your collectors or store owners. It's got just a fascinating story behind it, again, that most people don't even realize existed. In terms of, and again, for your viewers out there, this was a cart that was produced by Sculptured Software for the Super Nintendo, which is the same company that did, Bart's Nightmare and Super Star Wars, a lot of these very common Super Nintendo titles. And they just had like a Windows 3.1 laser printer like label just kind of stuck on there, made an old Microsoft Word. And I've opened up, again, about 20 of these, and I've seen roughly 12 different boards across them. So my working theory is that they basically said to Jim or whoever at Sculptured Software, like, hey, we need to make these carts. Like, here's all of our leftover scrap. Can you just kind of like put this together and make it work?
Prototypes.
Almost. I mean, it almost feels that way. Like, I've opened up carts that have had, pins jumped inside and stuff like that. And but everything's always kind of checked out. I've never seen anything for those carts that's made me think that there's like a counterfeit one out there. And realistically, like, your counterfeiters wouldn't know what to do with that. And so it's been a very interesting journey learning more about that. And I've worked with a few collectors on that front too that have like found lots of these at like Army surplus auctions and things like that, and help them like identify, here's what they are, here's what their market value is, this is the best way to sort of handle that if you want to keep them, or move them into a place where it's going to be interesting and valuable to another collector.
He has decided to crash the show. He thinks he's the star of this podcast. So, yeah, he's on my lap. Cody has joined the Crimeycade again. There's another one that's running around the house, but she's sleeping somewhere. This guy wants to crash the show and walk in front of the screen and who knows what else. Knock things on the floor, and now he wants to chew on the wires, and that's not going to be permitted. If he goes chewing on the wires, I'm going to throw him out of this room. I'm just going to have to keep my eye on him and make sure that he's not chewing on things.
Sounds like he's been warned.
Yeah, like I don't think he cares. He does whatever heck he wants, and those doggone gingers, and he bites too. Bite me on the arm if I'm not fully paying attention to him.
Sounds like a cat.
Yeah. Let's see, where were we? Gosh. So you have the progression of the collection. I mean, I guess this thing's been gathering over how long of a span of time?
So, I mean, stuff that we've turned into museum exhibits from my personal collection, I've probably had for 25, 30 years, kind of going back to the beginning there. And I'm still adding 4 or 5 pieces a year, I would say, of stuff that's caught my eye. And that's, again, just from my personal collection. Some of the other collections that I'm able to tap into when I'm doing an event, some of those people have been collecting literally since like the launch of the Atari 2600. I have an extraordinary, and again, I'm not going to, dox anybody on here, but like one of the guys that I work with has probably like one of the absolutely most unbelievable Atari 2600 collections that is loaded with just every rare item short of air raid in a
Or
single
Red Sea
spot.
Crossing.
I've come across and I've seen one of those before.
Oh, you have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was rarer than the air raid.
So I've never seen an air raid in person. I know secondhand people like, yeah, we had one that came into our store once and things like that. But I have seen a Red Sea crossing in person, which was pretty cool. Again, as an appreciator of that kind of history and the really rare sort of stuff.
Right.
But so just to get back to your question, yeah, some of these collectors have been doing it since the beginning, and I'm just feel very lucky and blessed that I get the opportunity to kind of share those stories. This group of us that all kind of work together. I'm the loud one. I'm the one that is social and likes to talk to people and have become the face for where a lot of the others are a lot more reclusive and your stereotypical like reclusive collectors. They don't really like to share what they have, but they realize that it's still really cool and they appreciate having the opportunity for those stories to kind of still get out, which is why a lot of them feel comfortable working with me to be able to get out and share that kind of stuff.
Now, is there a space, you had the traveling exhibits, is there a place where you can see the whole thing?
At this time, no. We don't. That's one of the more common questions we get. We have talked with a few other places about potentially putting a few items on loan for certain displays or exhibits. And there are some absolutely fantastic video game museums that are already out there. There's the MOSA, I believe is what it's called, out in California, up in the Bay Area is amazing. Obviously, the National Video Game Museum down in Frisco, Texas. John Hattie and his team have put together just an unbelievably awesome exhibit there, which I recommend to anybody that's going down in the Dallas Fort Worth area at any time. I loved it. I was there about a month ago, and it blew me away. It was fantastic.
7 years. So it was 7 years ago that I made it down there
Mm-hmm.
for a Let's Play. You did Let's Play. What year was that?
I did Let's Play. It was either 2016 or 2017.
Okay. So I was down there for 2018. So I guess we missed each other. Let's see. Gosh. Yeah, Dan Kitchen was there
Mm-hmm.
that day that I showed up. It was like the day after the convention Let's Play was over. And it's like, Dan Kitchen's there. And he's got a prototype of Keystone Keepers 2.
Yeah.
And I got to see that for the very first time before the rest of the internet did.
Very cool.
Holy cow. Anyway. So exhibit is not, there's nowhere where you can see the full exhibit right now. The full.
And a lot of that too is just by design with how we're set up. Because like I said, I tap into some of the collectors that are out in like Washington State and Oregon, and a lot of these folks want to keep their collections with them unless we actually have them on display.
Right.
And I don't know, like so we've looked at a few different options. I've put stuff occasionally on display too with local shops that I've worked with and I trust, and just to give them something kind of cool to again provide content for their customers really. But nothing with the whole shebang yet.
If you see anybody else's collections, I know I had somebody on the pod, Gamer Aimer, Brandy Aimer. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
I am not.
Oh,
I might have to see a picture, but
she's out east. She has her own podcast.
Okay.
Her entire basement is wall to ceiling with gaming paraphernalia.
Oh, nice.
I'll bring her up now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can get. Well, this is her game room tour. I'll throw this up here real quick. That's her. You don't.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's her basement. She's got several kiosks. She's collected, gosh, tons of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we got room for this. So this is her tour of her space, and she's gotten discarded kiosks. Obviously, yeah.
It looks fantastic.
A lot of Nintendo stuff.
I'll say I've gotten pretty lucky too over the years with the shows that we've gone to. I've been able to visit a few of the local basements that are kind of like this and see a few collections that are just absolutely mind blowing. And I really appreciate too just the opportunities to see like how much, you know, effort and like there's a lot that goes into the design and, you know, arrangement of a collection like this to really make it pop and sell the right way.
Yeah, I would like to go visit her house, but I haven't met her in person yet. We haven't crossed paths. I don't think she hasn't come far enough west. She kind of supposed to be going to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Next is it next weekend? Yeah, it is next weekend actually. I'd like to go there, but I got to deal with the cats.
Mm.
One has to be medicated daily. I was real lucky to go out to KC because
Oh,
it
I'm
was
glad
like
you're
a
able to make it.
300-mile drive for. Although typically, the big one I go to is Midwest Gaming Classic up in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, MGC is fantastic.
Have you been there?
I have a few times. So one of the other side jobs I worked for a little while. If you or your viewers are familiar with Whatnot,
Heard of it?
when Whatnot moved into the video game space, I was the guy they reached out to help guide them through that process. What should this look like? Where should we go? How should we set up? Things like that. And it was an amazing, awesome job. I really loved doing it. Like I worked literally for Whatnot. I wasn't just like a vendor on there. And again, I absolutely had a blast with it because it was just about networking and communicating. And one of the pieces that was included with that was setting up convention sponsorships and deals and so forth. And we sponsored MGC for 2 years while I was with Whatnot. And we sponsored their panel room 1 year. We sponsored their cosplay contest, which is something I think really cool with the cosplay contest, where the winners of the cosplay contest, we commissioned an artist to paint them. And that was like the grand prize for each category was like a gigantic painted print, or not like a painting of them in their cosplay with like a modified background behind it and stuff like that. And we commissioned an absolutely fantastic artist for that. Believe his handle is like retro game art or retro gamer art.
Okay.
And he was very good to work with. And again, we created I'd like to think some really cool memories for these cosplayers that put a lot of hard work into some really, really fantastic cosplays too. But so I've been to MGC a few times. I love working. Dan Lucen and his team up there are absolutely fantastic. We've talked a little bit about bringing the museum up and doing some displays there. But the fact of the matter is, like, they've got Andy that did their museum the past few years has also been like he does an amazing exhibit, and like they don't need me because
they got quite the extensive exhibit. Although it's been pretty much the same the last several years. They kind of need some fresh material, I think.
Well, that's where I can come in and help. And like I said, I would absolutely love to get back up there. It was a lot easier to get up there when I was with Whatnot, because then Whatnot was paying my travel and lodging and all that kind of stuff. So it's a slightly different story when if I'm doing a museum exhibit now, I'm going to be driving a van full of stuff all the way up there.
Yeah.
Which
road trips are quite
can be done. But and that's something else like I learned doing the museum was that what made it work, and I think one of the big draws to it is I try to be just basically a turnkey kind of operation where I'm bringing my own display cases, tablecloths, banners, like everything. Like you don't have to lift a finger. All I need you to do if I'm coming out to your event is give me the tables and maybe provide electricity if we're going to set up like a live demo of something. So that I try to make it as easy as I possibly can for people and really enjoy setting up, those kinds of experiences and opportunities.
Jeez. So you went to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
So I was in Japan from 2018 to 2019.
Now, how much? If I wanted to fly out to another country, it would probably have to be Japan, although I can't speak the language or read kanji.
Yeah.
For
So
the simple fact that they get all the new tech and all the new games first before we do 99% of the time.
yep. Well,
What did you go ahead?
I was just say a lot of the releases have started to sync up a lot more. It was a lot more prevalent where the things were coming out in Japan back in the 90s and like the early 2000s, where now you basically have worldwide launches at least of like the current stuff that's coming out. But and I will say for you and all your viewers, I know about 10 sentences in Japanese, but once we got there, as long as you're in an urban type area, there is English everywhere. We learned to adapt very, very quickly to how to eat out at restaurants and really enjoy the culture. And I never felt like I was being looked down upon as a gaijin foreigner that was there. And we had an absolute blast for those 2 years while we were out there.
Now, what were some of the things you saw out there that technology-wise that we don't have here?
So the first thing, so it's again technology in a very literal sense of the term, and not necessarily electronic. The hotel we stayed in that first day, or that our first 3 or 4 weeks that we were there, just the like in the shower, the faucet, it didn't have like a hot and cold knob. It had like a temperature twist setting and just maintained exactly that temperature for you. And it was all mechanical. It wasn't electronic. Like it was all mechanical limiters inside of it and so forth. And it was fascinating that like it was just this, it's a same kind of concept for a universal thing that everybody needs to do, take a shower. And they had just figured out a way to approach it differently than everybody else to create a more user-centric experience now, where you're not experimenting with knobs to find exactly right, and like a 16th of a turn is like 50 degrees hotter kind of situation. So like that was when we realized, okay, like they look at a lot of stuff differently than we do. And from there, technology wise, seeing how they had changed their like the principles of their vehicles, a lot of bicycle riders out there, and like this was before electric bikes were really back in the US. You're starting to see a lot more of those, but they were all over the place in Japan. That was a very common method of transportation. But then couple that with like their public transportation system was absolutely fantastic and super easy to utilize, and a lot of that stuff has been incorporated over into how the US is doing a lot of its public transportation systems now. But at the end of the day, like they just keep that the customer experience is always at the forefront of everything that they are doing. And one of the funniest examples of that is when you're buying like a train pass, there's a help button on the on the kiosk there. When you push the help button, if you are in an urban or just slightly outside of urban area, there's normally a little door that like will just a little window that'll just open up and somebody sticks their head out to help you. And they're just like right there, ready to go.
My gosh.
And provide assistance just right off the bat. Trying to think of a few other good like technological examples. I mean, we picked up a nice rice maker before we left. We wanted to, rice is such an important staple in Japanese culture, and the way that they've like maximized too. And I mentioned I put my collection into storage before we came out because we were moving from a house that was 2,300 square feet down to an apartment that was 1,100.
Well, you also wouldn't been able to like fly your collection out.
They would have shipped on. We shipped a lot of stuff out, but it came by sea. So we had to wait about 2 months for like most of our household goods to show up, and we were just kind of.
Oh my gosh! I mean.
Yep.
So why did you move to Japan?
So it was a work situation.
Oh, okay.
So
like for a technology company or what? Without revealing the name.
Yeah, it was a military thing.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, gosh, any games you got that you found out there that the United States didn't get?
So yeah, we picked up a ton of games while we were out there. I loaded up on a lot of really nice Super Famicom titles, a lot of really cool complete in box ones. I picked up, I mean, some other slightly rarer. Actually, I did have these on display at KC Retro. So while I was out there, I picked up Mega Man Wily Wars for the Genesis,
Yeah.
and Golden Axe 3 and Bare Knuckle 3, which I did not have on display at KC Retro because I ran out of room in my case. But we had that too. And those three games, again, having a Mega Man game on the Genesis, that as well as Golden Axe 3 were only made available in North America via the Sega Channel, which is why we bring them out. And I just think that's a cool, fun thing, you know, with as iconic as Mega Man is and like really strongly associated with Nintendo. And while we got a Game Gear release in the U.S. Via U.S. Gold, that Wily Wars collection, you know, was looked at as, you know, basically a system, so to speak, for people getting that Sega Channel adapter. And it's shocking to me that they weren't able to finish landing the licensing rights that they needed to release it in North America. Though I imagine Nintendo of America probably had something to say about that.
Although I would think that the game got released years later, maybe as a part of a collection.
And it did. It did come out later. One of the coolest things that I got, though, while I was out there, speaking of fun, weird stuff, and I just turned around to grab it real quick. So they have these things called gachapon machines out there, which are your just console, or sorry, not your little you know, prize ball kind of, you know, put in 300 yen, see what you get. And while I was out there, they had these mini Super Famicom collection, which inside the capsule machine, like this was one capsule's worth. It had like a Super Famicom, it had a Super Game Boy with a copy of Super Mario Land right there, like nice little labels on everything. There's like these tiny little controllers that actually
like a
plug
Christmas
into,
ornament.
like it's so cool and fun and kitschy. And there was like a whole set that kind of go together that includes like a super scope and a Satellaview, and like the fact you could like take the cart and like put it into the console and like make a little cool display. Like this was, so I made a point to find like the whole collection of these, and that's something that's been very popular in terms of just the fun, weird factor that we bring out to shows sometimes. And they've done miniature console, miniature, and obviously it's not like a real playable console, unfortunately. Although if I could hand it over to my, you know, RetroPie people, I'm sure we could figure out something for it. But Genesis had one that included like a whole tower of power if you got enough of these capsules, where you'd get the Genesis and the Sega CD underneath and the 32X, and then like it just stack them on each other. But
yeah, I've seen those. They try to interlock so many daggum things together.
Go?
Yeah.
Well, them doing it in like these like little miniature consoles too, it just makes it a fun, you know, kind of aside. So I thought those were neat.
I did see a lot of Famicom games for sale. Well, they didn't have this card, but this is one This was never released in America.
Yep, I think we had that actually on display this weekend at the museum at KC Retro.
Oh, I didn't even see it.
Yep.
Dang it, I missed it.
we had one of our displays we had out there was just a collection of, you know, popular import games, a lot of them being very popular American titles, to see like what did the Famicom version look like. It's just and we had a little challenge, like how many of these can you identify. We tried to make it nice and easy for folks and make it an accessible sort of thing. But and then we switched every 6 hours, we switched the carts out. So every time you came back, there was different stuff in there. And we did torture people a little bit. That we did have a copy of Gradius 2 in there Sunday morning.
Yeah, I've played the arcade version. I couldn't understand why this was not released in America. We got Life Force instead.
Yeah.
And it's like some special chip was in this cartridge that they couldn't release it in the United States. It's like, seriously? You can't manufacture a certain chip in America and release this game?
Yeah.
Why? Is the question I had. I was thankful that they put out, my arcade put out these adapters so you can plug these
Yeah, it's pretty handy.
Famicom carts in. You don't have to search for a copy of Gyromite, the original release, and try to open the cart and then pull the converter out.
Yeah.
Which is how most people were playing these for a while, unless they had a Famicom console. There's a few of those out there I saw, but most people don't have a Famicom console.
Yeah.
It took several years for some of these to get over here. But there's a whole table full of carts. And it's like, I was trying to, looking at those and then trying to guess, okay, can I guess what the game is? Looking at the label, the American equivalent.
Yeah.
I managed to spot a copy of Quarth, which is a Konami game, also known in America as Block Hole, which was a recent game they put out on the Galloping Ghost arcade floor. They had a Famicom version of Quarth. Not released in America, the Game Boy version was, but not the Nintendo Entertainment System version. But I knew I was looking at the label. And then I had them plop the game into the system to see what it looked like on the NES. I'm not a real big fan of that game, but it was a T20 tournament game, so I had to play it, whether I liked it or not. But anyway, I did pull something out for you since you showed me some things. Yes.
That is awesome.
I still have this. 91 finalists. This is what all the college winners got for all the campuses. And obviously, if I'm going to pull that out, I have to pull this out. Nintendo Campus Challenge Trophy, which does not leave the house because I'm fear this thing will get broken. It's glass.
Yeah.
It's one of one.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
This I've taken out because it's just a smaller piece and less weight to it. But I have this up in the air where the cat cannot knock it over.
Oh, man. I would keep that behind a closed door.
Well, it wasn't behind a closed door. It's a very high shelf where the cat can't jump up there. He would have a hard time climbing the shelf because there's so many books. You'd have to get around all the stuff that's on the shelves. There's not enough space for him. Plus, there's nothing. He really wants up there that bad. I've never seen him try.
Yeah. He's just waiting for you to cross him the right way or the wrong way, I guess.
Oh, he has a. He can. He just if I cross him, he will. He will blindside me and bite me on the arm, and he's injured me multiple times. If I have the windows open and he sees an intruder cat walking through the neighborhood, he'll come into the room and then attack me viciously.
Why did you let this happen?
He's pissed. Oh my goodness. Anyway, those are, and I have championship belts, and I take those around because you just wear those.
Oh yeah.
I don't have a. I've kind of thought of having a Nintendo Campus Challenge belt made, but have not pulled the trigger on that. Have to find a custom belt maker, and then it'd be a few $100. I don't know if I want to do that, but anyway.
I mean, you're the only person that can actually get away with doing it. So,
well, yes, of course.
That's something that you can reserve for a time when it suits your budget and ability to do so, and let her rip.
Well, I could buy one now if I wanted to, but I just haven't. I do have this trophy. I do remember that Thor Ackerlund sold his trophy off, auctioned it off to raise money to cover medical bills. Back back then, you met him in 2015, or
Yep.
when was it? Yeah, about that time was when, I don't know the exact year, but the time frame was pretty close.
Hmm.
His wife was ailing, and she had some sort of serious medical condition. He needed to help cover those medical bills. I don't know who ended up with the trophy, but kind of a
Yeah.
tragic situation. She did not survive,
Hmm.
unfortunately. Um, I did try to go meet him at Let's Play Expo, 2018. His work schedule, he couldn't get away from work,
Hmm.
and it was on a Saturday, so he was doing the similar work as to what I do,
Yeah.
IT repairs. So, and then no Christian Dithering. He was involved with the Let's Play Gaming Expo.
Oh, yeah.
I had him on the show, so yeah, he came up to Goblin Ghost very recently too.
Mhm.
So he's a great guy.
Yeah. Big fan of Christians. He and I have been trying to connect because he was running a show down in El Paso, I think a year or two ago, and he wanted to bring the museum down there, but we just weren't able to make the dates line up. But yeah, I've known Christian. He was the one that found me, at BitCon and invited me down to Let's Play. And I've enjoyed having opportunities to see him at like Portland and other events just kind of around. I saw him at MGC when he was working with Sega and they had the Super Monkey Ball cartoon, or not cartoon, the puppet show that they were doing. That was it was a lot of goofy fun.
This, that.
Oh,
And I've been to Midwest Gaming Classic. Yeah, I got a 21-year streak, and I mentioned that to you previously. Going, and it's going to be 22 as of next April. The Grails. You mentioned the sewing machine.
Mhm.
Is that the Grail, or is there something else that's even more of a Grail?
So I mean, I mentioned the like the Max stuff. I'd consider the Max stuff to be a
Oh,
grail.
that's right. I didn't even. The Max Nintendo bicycle. I need to see if I can get that on the screen.
Well, that was So the Exertainment Mountain Bike Rally Speed Racer combo cart, like that's a Super Nintendo grail right there.
I think this is it. Hold on. This might be it. Or no. Oh, this is another.
Oh, yeah, that's Kelsey, and that is the home model bike, which was the only item to use the expansion port in the bottom of the Super Nintendo. You can see kind of that other system that plugs in there. The commercial model bike that had a Super Nintendo built into it with a TV, and it had the ability to play the Super Nintendo as a picture-in-picture, so you can watch, Judge Judy or whatever you like to watch when you're biking at the gym, and like still see how you're doing in like Speed Racer up on the top there.
Kind of like. I think I played some sort of rowing game that had the similar setup, although it was an incorporated game in the rower where you're racing a computer opponent, but the computer opponent just kind of rows at a steady pace, and you can just row it however fast you want to go.
So
here we go.
Let's see. Oh yeah, there's Mountain Bike Rally.
The game.
It's not great.
Not great. Not like Excite Bike.
No.
Although, you know what? It would kind of hold my interest for a bit or make me want to exercise a bit. Also, a kid is playing the game while the parent is doing the biking. Wow. The rower was also put out by Life Fitness, so I guess this wouldn't be all that unusual.
So, I guess one of the other grails that I like specifically collect for, like personally, and there's the combo cart right there. That is that's the one I found in Pensacola.
Speed Racer, the arcade game by Namco, is that the Speed Racer?
So it is a modified version because there was a Speed Racer cart for Super Nintendo as well. This is one again that was designed to basically play like Mountain Bike Rally. but as
Okay.
Speed Racer.
Okay. Okay. It was not adaptation of the Namco arcade game.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You said you
So
were
yeah, so one of the other things that, again, from a story wise, that I think is absolutely fascinating, that I collect a lot for, I collect memorabilia and anything I can get relating to, is NBA Elite 11.
Okay.
And that was a game that was famously canceled by EA Sports because they were getting their butts beat every year by 2K, and they changed a lot of stuff up to get ready for their 2010, which would have been 11 in the year, release.
Mm-hmm.
And what they came up with was awful, and the initial previews were bad, and then the initial reviews were so terrible that they actually recalled the game. It never officially was released. It featured at the time Oklahoma City Thunder Kevin Durant on the cover, which was a big deal kind of for him as he's ascending up too, and becoming the Hall of Fame player that he is today. But the whole lore behind like what happened here, how did this get to be so terrible? It was rumored at first that there were only like a dozen or so copies that made it out. I can certainly debunk that. I'm guessing it's closer to 60 to 100 would probably be my guess now. I've personally seen 4 or 5 different copies, and I have a hard time believing I've seen half of them just by myself. I have talked to the marketing folks that were out at EA at the time that did the marketing for it, and understanding what that looked like. I've talked to people who were managers at GameStop and EB Games back in the day to hear kind of what they remember from the release as well, where they pointed out that like the game was originally delayed a week, and the stores that had received it then got notification like, nope, you need to send them all back. So
so the game was that. So what was wrong with the game? It was a basketball game, obviously.
yes,
But
yep. So it in addition to it just featured, there were tons of bugs and just kind of general sloppiness. One of the big things they changed is the way that you shot in the game was by moving the right analog stick on your controller straight up, not pointing at the basket, but as vertical up as you possibly can. And if you were able to go perfectly 0 degrees off, true north on your controller, and you released at the right time, you can make a shot from basically anywhere with anybody. Now, on your controller, that's not a very natural motion, because even just naturally, when you push up, you are naturally going to drag to the right if you're using the right analog stick just a little bit. So the shooting felt extremely wonky and just bad. And
so
again,
they did not. So the game was broken. They didn't do really any testing. Did they test this game before they tried to release it?
So not well enough. I'm sure EA Sports, like, they had a QA team. If you roll the credits on the game, like there's a QA team that somehow made it into the credits. And like I said, that being said, like I've played it. I actually, when I was in Kansas City last year for the All-in-One Gaming Expo, we set up an NBA Elite 11 exhibit with, again, memorabilia, posters, and we had a copy of the game for people to actually play. And folks got to try it out, and everybody universally agreed that it was terrible.
I think this is it. Hold up.
Yeah.
This has got to be it, isn't it?
That is it right there. That is the canceled game.
For the PS3, I think.
Yes.
Or this version is.
There was an Xbox 360 version in development as well. I have seen one disc that was sold on Heritage auctions for the Xbox 360, and it was disc only, no case or manual or anything like that. And that sold for a boatload.
And this is like 2011, and look at the graphics look pretty good.
Yeah. The graphics weren't too bad until you got to like some of the zoomed in character models were pretty rough. There are a lot of famous glitches, and we were able to make it similarly glitch as well when we demoed it at All-in-One.
Yeah, the HUDs. I
Like
wonder if
it,
I can. Get
they
it to
invested a
glitch.
lot with it, and like they had the ESPN licensing on it, but I don't know how much of a sports gamer you are, but like the 2K
Not
series was
good.
the 2K series was just way more fun, and again, it was killing them every year. So EA just decided to basically cut their losses. Let's recall the game, and EA did not release another basketball game until 2015. And even then, they have since that only lasted maybe 2 or 3 years before they just quit altogether.
Although, if I'm going to play a basketball game on a, well, that doesn't look that bad zoomed in. Here you go. This looks like a replay. Ah, I don't know. If I'm going to play a basketball game, it's going to be NBA Jam.
I mean, that's certainly a good one to go to.
If it's going to be a football game, it's probably going to be NFL Blitz 99.
Oh.
But
So what
sports
caught my
games are
attention with
kind
this
of
game,
an Achilles heel.
as I was, researching like what happened here, like what was actually going on, again with all the people that I've talked to and like figured out along the way, your big retro game collectors, like this has a very similar story to another famously popular Nintendo rarity that was released for a very short period of time and then recalled and then turned into something else altogether. And of course, I'm talking about stadium events there.
Oh, yes. So Stadium Events originally was a peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who made it originally, but Bandai created an exercise pad.
Yep. The Family
Stadium
Fun
Events.
Fitness.
Yeah. Nintendo saw it. They wanted it. They wanted to bundle it with the NES.
Yep.
And so they bought it, and then it ended up rebranded as a Nintendo product.
Yep. World-class track meet.
Yeah. So I could see why the Bandai version is that rare, because Nintendo saw it and they wanted it and wanted to make it an official part of the Nintendo line. And
so
good business move, bad business move.
So clearly not quite the same, but there's definitely some parallel kind of vibes between the NBA Elite 11 and stadium events. I don't think it's ever going to become as like legendary or like huge as stadium events, has become. But it does check a lot of very interesting boxes between your, famous franchises that were killed off from this. It's got a major basketball player in Kevin Durant. Like this is like part of his ascension into like the complete superstardom that he later on went to become. And then again, from like just the weird rarity of how many copies are actually out there. So like I said, we're lucky enough, and I've been collecting this, and some of the other really cool pieces they have for this game that we brought out. So we have they're gigantic briefcases that have a laser etched PS3 inside of it that's branded with the game, the game title, and these were rewards for media members and NBA players that helped with the actual development of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to color match based on the players and who they were with at the time. And we have a red one and a purple one of those briefcases as well. And they look absolutely gorgeous. They've got some Swarovski crystals on them that I've had to do a lot of research on and like figure out exactly what those crystals are. We've repaired and synced up a few to get them back to a more complete status. Which has been its own just nightmare of an adventure. But it is probably the most beautiful PS3 design that's out there. The red one just looks absolutely stunning. There's one on eBay right now that's been sitting there for a while. Like we're not buyers. It's been sitting there with like a $9,000 buy it now price tag. And occasionally we'll come across them at like conventions and stuff like that too.
I'm looking on YouTube and I see several. Oh, the cat's joined me again. I'm looking on YouTube and it looks like there had to have been several copies of NBA Elite that went out because there's a lot of videos on YouTube on this game. So I guess it did get some. I guess there's still some copies floating around.
We know for a fact that the game image has been dumped.
Yes.
And just about, I would venture to guess, every one of those videos you're looking at is from like a modded PS3 that is playing one of those downloaded images of the game.
Some of them.
But
Some of them at least, but yeah.
Yeah, again, definitely more than the 10 to 12 estimate that we've used to be. That was the theory back in like 2016, 2017.
Okay. Well, is there anything you're after that you have your eye on and would like to acquire for the collection?
I guess I've been kind of trying to dip my fingers a little bit into the like video game art, some of the original cover arts and stuff like that are out there, and advertising arts, things like that. I've had a little bit of luck with it, but not much. And there's a few collectors out there that just have absolutely amazing collections. There's a fantastic Facebook group, Original Video Game Art OVGA. Facebook group where you can find a lot of this stuff posted, and they have just, again, a lot of the big players are in there. You can see some of these just beautiful pieces. I know Stephen Reese with the interactive art collection. He does the Nintendo Power traveling exhibit. His stuff is gorgeous, and like there's some really just amazing details when you can see some of this stuff up close. And some of you have no idea even exists until you get a chance to actually see it. Well,
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to acquire any of that stuff. But the one I want to highlight, so Stefan has the painting that was used for the Metroid, the Super Metroid Player's Guide, the Nintendo Player's Guide, which is a very famous image. And right in the middle of that Player's Guide says like Super Metroid Player's Guide. And what you don't realize is underneath that square of text that was added later, looks like a placard, like that's Samus from Metroid. Yeah. Like they covered her up. And the only way that you're going to know that is by looking at the original painting, but seeing this gigantic painting and its detail is just absolutely fantastic.
They covered the star of the game up
Yep.
with text, and you can't see her?
Yep.
Shameful.
Crazy stuff.
What were they thinking?
And it's a fantastic cover even without Samus on it. Like it's one of those I've got the Super Metroid Player's Guide still, and like it's a fantastic piece of art that really gets you psyched up to jump in and play.
If you can find a copy that's not, let's say, several $100s.
Yeah.
Although now I'm seeing all these Paul Tessie streams some mashup between Super Metroid and Legend of Zelda. Which I guess it's some downloaded game, or it just switches between the two titles. It's just a randomly generated world and stuff. And it's like, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
How in the world is he playing these two different games and switching between the two? It's like, I haven't touched it. He's played it, but I haven't had time to go play anything lately. The only thing I've been able to play is Angry Birds. That's it. On my phone at work or somewhere when I'm like watching paint dry with some download that's having or install that's happening. Anyway.
You sound like a guy that needs to download Balatro.
Balatro?
Oh yeah.
What is that?
It was up for like Game of the Year last year. It's a downloadable on every console and basically all the phones. If you have Apple Arcade, it's included with that for free. It is a poker roguelike kind of game. Like it's super, like I was kind of skeptical at first, but then I saw like it was up for Game of the Year. Like, okay, let's give this a shot.
Poker game?
Yep.
How do you spell it?
Balatro.
Balatro. Balatro. There's a cat in front of me right now, and it's like I have to reach over to type it. Oh gosh, Markiplier does a review of this. I'll have to watch his video. What? It's poker. Yeah, it is poker. It ain't.
So
the Texas Hold'em. It's like 5 cards.
Yeah. The shtick to it is you get jokers, and the jokers change cards and alter how your score changes over time. and it's randomized every single time you play, so you never really know what's going to happen. But there's all these variables that come in, and all of a sudden you're getting millions of points, and you're buying permanent upgrades and things like that along the way too.
This
It's
was
a
game of the
ton of fun.
year. Did this win gamer of the year? Game of the year?
I'm sure it won Game of the Year a few places. I couldn't tell you if it won like the big ones or not, but it was absolutely like in that conversation.
I don't know if I would play this one. I don't know. I have to watch a little gameplay video, but not
It'll hook you.
eager to. Yeah, and my time is limited as it is.
Yeah.
Shoot. And this cat's in my front of me, and I'm covering up everything. Pull this up so I can look at it. I didn't write a whole lot on this. You asked me before we even started what topics we're going to cover. Well, this is as far as I got.
We've been going for almost an hour and a half.
Wait. I just most of the time I just let the guest guide the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just wing it, and I get the guest started, and just let the guest take control, and that's typically, and then of course that ends up causing the podcast to go up to 3 hours. But right now we're almost at the 2-hour mark. That although you've only been here 90 minutes because I ranted for half an hour before you came in on topics that you did not want to talk about, and that was fully understandable. Although I didn't really mention the person by name, I just ended up how it affects the gaming side of things. Any future goals?
Well, I guess I'd like to just mention the next few shows I kind of expect to be at for any of your viewers if they want to come check out what we're doing. So we're finishing up discussions. It's far enough along. I'm pretty confident that we'll be at Retrofest in Conrad, Arkansas, which is Retro Rick Show. It's their second year. We've heard that everything was absolutely amazing in their first year, and we're really excited to come be a part of that for their next show this year. I think that's Columbus Day weekend. I think it's like October 10th and 11th, 11th, 12th, somewhere kind of around that range.
Okay.
So we'll be there. I am running the museum at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo this year as well, which is the following weekend. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of that, and I'll be heading out there. We're going to have some amazing displays set up there to include. We're looking at the 40th anniversary of the Nintendo Entertainment System in North America, and we have a very, I would say, unique approach to kind of looking at like the individual gaming history and development along the way there that I'm going to be a little tight-lipped on, but I'm kind of excited about it. We're going to have Stefan Reese and that Nintendo Power art collection out as part of our exhibit as well. And we have a new exhibit that we've been working with a team out in California, out in the Northwest as well, on the history of FMV games. And we have an absolutely dynamite display plan that's going to get into looking at full motion video and games, whether it's an animated style like Dragon's Lair, down to like the mid-tier timeline stuff, your night traps and things like that, into like what does the current situation look like and going forward too. There's going to be a pretty impressive display set up on there that is going to be roughly 36 by 30 feet with walkthrough interactive displays and some awesome memorabilia from some of these games, some iconic things there too along the way. So that's going to be a really, really awesome event, and I'm just excited to go out and be a part of it too.
I didn't ask, how good of a gamer are you?
I'd say I'm pretty good. I've got playing a lot more modern stuff than retro stuff these days, unfortunately. But before I hopped on with you, I'm replaying Hollow Knight right now to try to 100% that before I start the new one that just dropped, which I'm very excited for. Really enjoy the Soulsborne type games and those like punishingly difficult kinds of stuff. Just made it through 3 playthroughs of Lies of P, which was one of the free PlayStation Plus games last month that I really enjoyed too.
Mhm.
But love a good RPG, love a good adventure. I'm a sucker for a great story in a game and really good storytelling elements. Although
Mhm.
for me personally, the pinnacle of that was probably Uncharted 2. From a storytelling standpoint, it was absolutely phenomenal. Oh, I will say, I just finished. My daughter and I have an 8-year-old girl. She's an absolute sweetheart. She and I tonight finished, and we beat right before I hopped on with you. Um, we beat It Takes Two, which
Okay.
was a game that came out 2 or 3 years ago. For those unfamiliar, it tells the story of a husband and wife, and they have a young daughter, and the husband and wife are planning on a divorce, and they get turned into toys in their daughter's world. And it's a co-op game where each character is like equally important. Like they have some kind of unique ability that you have to use to maneuver to go through the story. And at the same time, it probably includes maybe 12 or 13 different genres of video games. It just covers such a wide berth of like adventure and platforming. There was a straight up fighting game portion with like health bars at one point. There's music, rhythm stuff, flying,
I saw
racing.
this.
It is, and it's absolutely, from a gameplay standpoint, it's fantastic.
I
And
saw somebody play this before. So that's what this game is.
mhm.
It's
And
two dolls.
playing it
They-
with my daughter was a lot of fun because she's getting old enough to be able to play a lot of these with me. And she just had an absolute blast. And just me as a dad, I love the opportunity to share those kinds of things with her when I can.
Wow. Yep. This is. I know who was playing this. It was gosh, Harley Fairfax was playing this on one of her streams like last year. She hasn't streamed for quite a long time,
Hmm.
unfortunately. Um, ever been to Galvin Ghost Arcade?
I have not, unfortunately. It's on my bucket list to get to. I've been wanting to get out there. I don't find myself up that way as often as I would like, unfortunately.
Any big arcades down that you have gone to?
Um, so probably the my favorite one I like to point to, the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas.
Hmm.
Um, absolutely, I was there. I don't know, probably 10 years ago now. One of my absolute favorite experiences from, you paid just a flat cover free fee, and then they had, I don't know, maybe 300 pinball cabs that were just all set on free play at the time. Um,
Apparently, it's not that way now. That's quarter blade
okay,
these
you know,
days.
it was, and still, like,
Rumored.
they have an unbelievable collection. That was just an absolute ton of fun. Um, I've been to a lot of the big arcades in Japan where you have like multi-story, a lot of the Akihabara stuff, which was again also just fantastic. Um,
Oh, that got to touch on that. Okay, arcade in Japan.
mhm.
Describe one of those places to me.
So most of your Japanese arcades were in buildings that were 6, 7 stories tall,
Hmm.
and each floor would kind of be dedicated to like something a little different. Like there'd be a claw machine floor, and there would be like a rhythm game floor. There would always be like a fighting game floor where you have like the candy cabs or like those benches, and people would just be sitting there, going head to head.
Yeah.
The top floor would always, maybe not always, but I remember the top floor being more of your interactive and like VR type gaming, and more where you're like sitting in. I still remember like playing like in Japan, the Luigi's Mansion arcade game. It was one where you're like sitting inside the booth and you've got the vacuum and you're sucking up the ghosts and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
like in the United States, there's an arcade version that your round ones and some of
hmm.
your gosh tilted tan and wherever else.
Well, it was neat to see too a lot of the licensed stuff they had out there that I haven't seen here in the U.S. Like they had a lot of VR pods and games that had like Biohazard licensed stuff and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, and that's not even including. Normally, you had like video game pachinko machines, but those would typically be in different parlors. But there was video game branded pachinkos all over the place too. Um,
Yeah, and those funny thing about those. Apparently, they can only be used a couple of years and then they have to be destroyed,
Hmm.
which is bizarre.
Don't tell that to
And
the metal slug in my garage.
well, if they stayed in Japan, if they got exported out, then who cares?
Yeah.
I don't know why,
Hmm.
but some stupid law or regulation over there. I don't get it. But
So, maybe the best arcade I've ever been to, and unfortunately, it's not there anymore. I was there in 2011. It was called Disney Quest, and it was at Disney World in Florida. And it was a 4 or 5 story enormous arcade where, again, everything was free play inside.
I don't think that place existed when I went in '92.
Mm-hmm. But it had like not just like arcade games, but it had like interactive, like it felt like being in an arcade game live, doing like shooting people with stuff, and
Yeah.
um, like and Disney, everything they do, if they put their mind to it, like they have the capability to make it just absolutely top notch. And Disney Quest was part of the downtown Disney, now Disney Springs area. It unfortunately is not there anymore, but yeah, my wife and I, we went to Disney World for our honeymoon when we got married in 2011, and we spent a good 2 days just doing Disney Quest. Um, and it was easy to spend the whole day there and still have tons left to do.
Well, now in Orlando, there's Super Mario World theme
Yes.
park, which I'd like to go to, being a former Nintendo champion.
Mm-hmm.
Take my trading cards out there. Yeah, I got trading cards. I gave you 2 of mine.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'd like to go out there and just sign some of my cards besides experience the theme park. Although I hate flying. Afraid to fly. But if I didn't have the pets, maybe it would be easier for me to go down there, especially after I retire. But
it's a good goal. And they're just going to keep adding to it. It looks like they've got, like, I've heard like the Donkey Kong Land is opening up soon. I'm not sure if that's the Orlando one or the Los Angeles one. And
I know Los Angeles got before Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then I think they're planning Legend of Zelda stuff too now.
Okay. Well, yeah, they just need to have a Nintendo dedicated theme park. That'd be nice. I wouldn't open it in Washington State, however, because it's like way up there in the Pacific Northwest and it's like cold, and Florida might be the better place to open it first.
Orlando's built for that.
Yes. Is there anything else you want to mention before we get out of here tonight? Any thoughts on Retro KC itself?
Yeah, so the KC Retro Show. So yeah, definitely, I had a lot of fun there. I appreciate them inviting me out. I did set up the museum at KC Retro, at the original KC Retro, the first event that they had, and I had just moved from California back to the Midwest where I'm at now. And like I hadn't done any shows yet. I'd just gotten settled, and I saw that this KC Retro Show was happening, and I reached out to Nate, the showrunner, like, hey, I do a gaming museum. I just got back in the area. I used to be super active in the area, but I'm looking to get my feet back wet again. Do you want me to bring some stuff out and just provide more content, for your attendees? And the timing worked out, and we were able to come, and we had an absolute blast. Which started a lot of my connection with the Kansas City folks and the great group that they have out there. And I wasn't able, timing wise, to make the next two conventions work, but I was super, super thrilled I was able to hit this one and come back. And to see how far that show's come to in such a short amount of time from, it was at like I don't know, some like Knights of Columbus Hall or something kind of like that when it kicked off, which is perfectly fine. That's a great place to begin. To already being at like a downtown venue, like in downtown.
Yeah, that was trying to get in there. It's like, I'm not familiar with Kansas City, and it's like I'm trying to find the exact building, and then I'm having to circle around to find public parking. It's like, crap.
Yeah, and the parking was going to be a challenge, I think, no matter what. But that's
Although I
part of
found a
the
place to park, and it was like next door, so it wasn't that bad.
yeah.
It's just finding it.
At the end of the day, I mean, and the showrunners for KC Retro are going to need to make some decisions on whether it's more valuable to be in an area that comes with like the clout of a downtown show, which carries weight to it, or if
Mhm.
you want to try to look to outsource to maybe somewhere just outside of city limits where now you have something that might be more accessible,
Like a
but it's going to
suburb.
limit you in some other factors too.
Yeah, the venue is important. Venue is nice where it was.
Mhm.
I did walk. Yeah, I walked with some kid out. Gosh, to some anime bar, and then back, and then pass through, and then I'm gonna get through that. I'm gonna tell that story once I have you once you're gone. Well, I might as well do it now because I'm gonna tell the story of my experience at KC Retro. Um, yeah, I heard about the show last year. Couldn't attend last year because I was busy. I had to do something else. This year the weekend was free, so bought tickets. Contact KC Retro and says I think I'm gonna attend this year. How big is this thing? It says last year it was like had 3,800 patrons. Okay. I wasn't expecting a giant show like Midwest Gaming Classic. I was kind of expecting, I don't know, something along the size of Como or
Mhm.
Missouri Game Con. And it pretty much was about that size. Although, square footage rise. Um, Never been to KC before, as I mentioned earlier. Uh, Last week I mentioned that I had to go buy a new car because my original vehicle decided to, I guess, die and become inoperable like late a week before this convention. And Labor Day weekend, I had a gig scheduled there. I had to go somewhere to basically, I had to go to the Coin State Fair to shoot an outdoor wrestling show. Ringside out in the heat. Try not to get sunburned because it was the middle of the day. Didn't have a vehicle that worked. Both of my cars went down. So I had to borrow a vehicle to drive down there. The Prius happened to, my old Prius happened to die. I was driving around Friday and then Saturday it was like dead. It's like, why won't it start? The engine won't turn. It won't start. It's like, what's going on? And it was due for maintenance, but scheduling had been an issue because the place where I take it usually is under construction,
Mm.
major remodel. So they had a bit of a backlog. But I had all these trips, and I was like, I had to get through this first. Well, the car didn't want to wait. It decided to crap. Come back, end up taking the entire day Tuesday to buy another car. I had to get the old Prius towed out there on a flatbed. Um, Ended up getting a new Prius or another Prius, a bigger one, kind of a 3-year-old one, but not very high mileage. Drove out to KC, and this was really the time where I just learned all the quirks with the Prius and the radar, the safety features, and cruise control, and the automatic decelerate when you're coming up on another vehicle, and the lane drift warnings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, play with everything's on a touch screen. Had to get used to that. I got there. I drove out. It took 4 hours to drive thereabouts. 4.5. Well, it's 300 miles, so it would be 70 miles. And I stopped multiple times, so it would have been maybe close to 5 hours. Get to KC. get to the hotel room, which is right by Kansas City University. Although the hotel didn't look all that great, even though I've stayed at other roadways before. This one looks like it needs a major remodel.
Need some road construction.
Yeah, there was road construction on the way. Yes, of course, going down I-30. Was it 35 or 29? One of the two. On the north end, north side coming south. Get to town, settle in, sleep, and then get up in the morning, and then head out to try to head out to the venue, find some breakfast somewhere, take a little cruising around to see things and stuff on the way there because it was like an hour before, and then get down there, and then I'm like looping around. It's after the doors opened. It's like, where the heck do I park? Where's the public parking? I finally find a garage, and there's a big sign in front that says event parking, and it's like next door to the venue, the municipal auditorium, I guess is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Pull in there, walk over there, get in, immediately see some people I know. Well, Nintendo Land was like right towards the front, so rendezvous with her first because we've been talking, communicating, and I would pop in her booth to kind of allow her to run around the convention hall for a bit, so she's not completely tethered to her table. But I also have to go walk around and see what's on the convention floor, and and obviously I have to look at the arcade games, and I see a computer space, a fully working computer space, bright yellow. Never played one, much less I've seen a computer space, but not one that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to start playing. It's like, oh, you can guide your shots, and it's kind of hard to accelerate, rotate, and it's like a little bit quirky. There's some rhythm games, which I can't play Dance Dance Revolution hardly. There's some touchscreen games. What did I play most of? Played Miss Pac-Man Turbo because I'm trying to kill screen that game at Galvin Ghost. Haven't been able to. Wacko, I played that a few times. Say again?
Did you play Point Blank?
Yes, I did.
One of my favorites. I was thrilled to see it there.
They had a Splatterhouse,
mm-hmm.
and I determined right away that they did not set up the control panel correctly because it was missing a jump button. Yeah, you could try to play the game, but you couldn't get very far into the first level because you can't jump because there's no jump button wired. So Arcade Supernova, I alerted them to that little tidbit of information. They need to put a jump button on that thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
It was not an original cabinet either. I think it was converted to from something else. What else did they have? They had, Tron, obviously. Hubert's Cubes, which ended up at Draftcade. I also made a trip to Draftcade. I'll have to get to that after this. Let's see. I've been to several game cons, and I've not bought anything in a row. Kind of a good reason for that is I have games. I have games unless I really am very desiring a certain title. I've got stuff I bought that I have never played.
Yep.
And my focus has not been on consoles. It's been on arcade games and chasing scores. Which is why I make frequent trips to the Goblin Ghost Arcade and buy the year-to-year pass. And of course, I have championships as
Mhm.
And of course, I'm one of their former Gamers of the Year. Yes. So I've had 4 of their belts. Yeah, they had the classic Tetris World Championships going there too. I
Mhm.
saw. I talked to the winner. He is following my channel. I don't know if he's tuned in tonight, but I'd like to have him on sometime in the future. Maybe do a Tetris panel because I was like I did so many weeks ago some parody for April Fool's Day. We had the Bloody Wars tournaments. Well, there was somebody who is plays in the Bloody Wars tournament, keeps running as a practical, has a running joke of doing a Tetris tournament for Bloody Wars. So I created this thing called Bloody Block Battles. Bloody Tetris pieces. Had a belt and everything. It was amusing. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I watched that final. That was quite exciting. The Maestro was the 5th seed, and he upset the person who was there. One of the people he upset was the kid who kill screened the NES Tetris.
Blue Scooty.
Yes, thank you. Scooty was there, and so I got to meet him. Maybe I'll have him on my show sometime in the future. I can't keep up with those guys, and I mentioned over and over, I'm in Thor's shadow because Thor kind of got more attention than I did. In terms of being a Nintendo champion, I came right after him, but I didn't get these video game endorsement deals or get invited to talk shows. Of course, I was still in college and going to school, but it's years later that I kind of started getting a little more attention or recognition. And obviously, I started this show to kind of relive some of those memories with the people who were involved way back in the day. I did mention Draftcade. I did make it out there. I knew the place existed for a long time. It's out in KC, and I'm here in Springfield, Illinois.
Mm.
They had some games. So they had several of Brian Colin's games all together. It has the Rackery. That's not commonly seen.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen one.
No. And somebody was trying to play it, and I stopped and I showed him how to play the game because he didn't know what he was doing. And that's not an easy game to pick up and play. So I did a game demo for him because I had an idea how to play it because I played in a tournament and that game was in it. He had Sarge, he had Xenophobe, and on the other side, there was another game by it. Well, there was 4 of the games there. I can't remember the 4th, but they also had a game known as Chaos, which I'd never played before. But those game plan games are relatively obscure, not very common. I kept going back and back and back to the game because I was trying to break 10,000. I could not break 10,000 on this. And the game it wasn't a difficult game to play, but then it's like, oh, maybe it is. Even though it looks simple to play. Running and jumping. Just to run the platforms, jump, try to get up to the top, and then go back down and try to take out the dragons or collect the coins. They had 3 wonders there. That's not Galaxy Ghost doesn't have that game. They don't have Chaos either. They had some sort of robot game known as Oscar. I believe that's Taito. Galaxy Ghost doesn't have that one either. They also had a Solar Fox, and they hacked the joystick. They had this metal piece that was serving as a trigger. And it's like, what the heck is this? Not an original controller. It was a hacked controller on a cabaret version of Solar Fox. I was in there for a couple hours, and I was glad I went anyway. Um, and then Sunday I did the pinball tournament, and I'm not that great at pinball, but I managed to finish third
Okay.
somehow. I took home a T-shirt
Yeah.
and got 9 out of my $10 back. And then the convention was over, and I had to drive all the way back to Springfield. Wow.
So one other thing that I remember from my Kansas City trip, which
Mm-hmm.
is very much retro game related, but unfortunately was not. It was just a pure coincidence. It wasn't tied to the convention at all.
Yeah.
And I think it was a marketing cross branding opportunity that was probably missed pretty hard by the KC Retro folks. So Friday night, the Friday before the event, Bit Brigade, the band, was in Kansas City playing at one of the venues there. And for those that aren't familiar with them, they do a live speed run, and the band plays the music in time and matches what's happening during the speed run.
Metroid.
They did Mega Man X. They've done Metroid
Okay.
before. They've done Zelda. They've F-Zero. They've done a ton of games, but they're on their Mega Man X tour right now, which is one
I
of my
know who
favorite
they
games.
are. I've
And just
seen them at Midwest Gaming
oh, they're
perform live
yeah,
during the convention.
they were phenomenal. It was the first time I'd ever gotten a chance to see them. And again, Mega Man X, one of my favorite soundtracks of all time too, which just the musician actual like their talent was off the charts, like hitting all of those electric guitar licks and everything, and everybody in the band had opportunities to really be featured and just put together an amazing show. It was awesome.
And they could change the song on a dime.
Yeah.
When they pick up a power up, and well, in Metroid, if you pick up a power up, it's
Yeah.
plays a tune
Yep.
and breaks whatever song that's being played.
Mega
Whatever
Man X was
level you're in.
probably a little bit easier from that standpoint because it's a
Yeah.
lot more structured timeline wise, but again, certainly a whole lot of iconic video game songs all at the same time, which was just awesome to see live.
That was unfortunate that they were there a week before they did not cross paths with the retro convention. That'd been a nice get.
Well, like I said, they were literally playing the night before.
Oh,
And
night before.
yeah,
Okay.
the night before. And they're on tour right now too. So like they were due to be someplace else Saturday and then Sunday as well, like well far away from Kansas City. So
It's like they
uh,
could have done a pre-show party.
yeah, and like that's where again I talked to a bunch of just random other people that were there at the show. I was like, yeah, I'm in town for this, gaming convention. Like, wait, the what? And so, I tried to help spread the word where I could and let them know what was going on. So hopefully that sold a few more tickets for the KC Retro folks. But finding opportunities to like co-brand on that kind of stuff and just support each other, I think would have been great for everybody.
I had your card a minute ago, and now I just misplaced it. But it's
Yes.
retro gamer, retrogamehunter.com is the website. Although most of the pages are blank except for the one blog page, I think.
So we are working with the old school video game magazine. And they have merged. If you go to retrogamehunter.com, it takes you to retroarcadehunter.com. And that's where there's a tab on there for the gaming museum that kind of highlights a little bit of our history. The page doesn't look beautiful right now. That's something I'm kind of looking at doing a redesign of too. Thanks for pulling it up there. I'd like to have just a dedicated page, probably getting retrogamehunter.com back to just being a strictly museum page. It used to be also a store-wide directory around the country to help people who were traveling to find places to go find retro games, because I love visiting every game shop I can anywhere I travel to. So I built a guide on how to do that. And again, we have since handed over the keys for that to the Old School Gamer magazine guys. And they're kind of keeping that piece updated right now.
All right. All right.
We
Joe?
We do
Oh, go
post
ahead.
where we're going to be at on Instagram is the primary place you can find us these days, which is retro.game.hunter.
Mhm.
That is our Instagram page, and we will post the events that we are going to be at and try to show some promos there to be excited about if you want to come check us out.
All right. Joe Sullivan, I want to thank you for coming in tonight, and hopefully we'll cross paths again.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks so much for having me, Steven. Appreciate you.
All right.
Yep.
Have a good night.
You too. See ya.
All right. That was Joe Sullivan, a retro game hunter, and you can look out at a gaming convention in somewhere in the United States where you can relive some gaming history sometime in the future. And I did look at some of the pieces, and yes, he has some quite an impressive collection. Although it's pretty much a small subset of what all he has. So let me bring this back up here. Share screen. Share screen. Bring back the presentation here. There we go. Well, I had fun with this. Hopefully, yeah, the Lex Municipal Auditorium. We'll see how it goes next year. Maybe I will be a guest at this next time around. I was out there as a patron. I did spend some time at Nintendo Land's booth and had some of my cards out. I did hand out my cards to a few people, so maybe I'll make it back out there next year. Well, new house highs at the Cowboy Ghost Arcade, and looky here. Uh, so let's start off with Tetris. I mentioned Tetris earlier. There's a Tetris tournament won by Maestro, and hopefully, maybe maybe I'll get him on my pod in the next few weeks. Maybe a Tetris panel. But David Lewandowski was not at this KC tournament. He was at the Galvin Ghost Arcade instead and ran up 453,000 on Tetris the Grandmaster. There are multiple arcade versions of Tetris, and this is just another variant. But congratulations to David on that one. This is now the correct score for Tracy Gleaves' run at Black Widow, and she just posted on YouTube that she broke 600,000 today or posted a new video where she broke 600K. So congratulations to Tracy Gleave. Maybe I'll highlight this next week. Power Stone 2, JP Pitts, yes, the now former champion. He should have just defended his belts in a best of 7, or at least should have done. Damian Cordova, I think, should have done a lot more to get those belts than just the best of 5 matches on Street Fighter 2 or the Grandmasters. But JP is almost at 285. Then follows Tricky Doc, 356, raising that score up some more, taking that from Jeff Lucas. Zach Michaels, a newcomer, ramp has got a new house high on Major Havoc. That is a difficult game to figure out or learn and control. He got that roller bar. 211. And, there's another gamer by the name of Steve Thorndeck that has been gunning for the Major Havoc score, but Zach beat him to it, it looks like. And Andrew Awasco takes the house high, and the newly released or newly placed on the arcade floor Samurai Assassin. I'm just going to call it Lone Wolf and Cub because that's the English name of this Magnus series, 52,000, this Mitsubishi game. He also finally got Quarth. Yeah, a game that's been kind of in my head lately because it's on the arcade floor, and Andrew finally took that score from Larry Brock, 221. But also, Jamie Tibbetts back on the prowl, chasing those shoot 'em up scores. Explosive Breaker and Sand Scorpion. I broke 500,000 on Sand Scorpion. I submitted a score for that, but then they never entered it. I don't know why. It's good enough for third on the card, but I was grinding on that game, and I was trying to take the high on that one, and maybe I'll go back to it when I get back at the Galby Ghost. But I certainly got to go after Goo Run Run again. Though I've lost a lot of ground in so many games lately. Skins game, Jeff Bertolf, another newcomer. Rob Childs takes the house high on Tempest. That was today, a few days ago. 677. That is not easy. Congratulations to him. And the chase for tokens, I haven't done this for over a month. Not really much of a change here, in at least the placements, but the power rankings, and we're the first month of the 17th season of the Goblin Ghost Arcade has begun, and standings are pretty much the same as they were a month ago. It's just a few more scores have been taken. I'm somehow still sitting on 10th place, barely hanging on. Barely hanging on to that. Scores I've lost that I need to take back, and I haven't been able to play because I've been doggone busy in the wrestling stuff the last few weeks. And all the trips, I've been on the run. I've been constantly on the run. Another wrestling show this Saturday, and I had to deal with. And I was trying to get away from it. At least I don't have to travel out of town this time, but still. And here's another thing. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. The Arcade Wars Game of the Month right now is Gigaween. Gavin goes ahead and submit any scores for that. I'll get one submitted when I get down there. Yeah, in the lead. The Garcade, which has been pretty much running away with it. Well, no, I spoke too soon. Look at this score. James Morris. What we got here? 4 trillion points here. Just by himself, he has the lead? Oh my goodness. Well, this Garcade's fully qualified, but James Morris? Yeah, One Up Arcade is open again. Kind of on a smaller scale, but One Up Arcade in Brisbane, Australia is open again. It lives again after closing down a few months ago. But they've reopened kind of in a smaller space, so I don't know. It's scores are being taken in, so the Arcade Wars will continue on. Gavin Gus hasn't really been into that too much of late, apart from last month. We took Mario Bros. And next weekend, if you're out in Ohio, I'd like to go to this, but I can't. I've got other things to do. Well, it's not that I don't have other things to do. This is a bit of a drive. This is a bit of a drive to go to. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong thing. This is a bit of a thing to go. This is a bit of a drive. My sister lives there, but she's moving fairly soon for a new job. It's gonna be relocating because her job ended out there. So I'd like to go. This is a pretty big convention out in the Cleveland, Ohio area. So maybe I'll go to it some year. I know a few people who are. But yeah, pretty big convention. Next weekend. Pinball Expo. So this year, I'm only going to be able to go for 2 days, the 16th and the 17th. The 18th, I had to hightail to St. Louis for Comic-Con. I got to get the name of that Comic-Con pretty soon because I'm going to they're going to have a wrestling show at the Comic-Con. Like a match every half hour or hour, and they need me to film all these. So I have to hightail it from Chicago down to St. Louis. I mean, at least I could sleep in my own bed on Friday night, but I get up and run down to St. Louis early to film wrestling. So I can't stay out in Chicago too late Friday night. And that sucks too, because I would like to have been there for 3 days instead too. Wow. Go to KC Retro, I guess we'll make up for it, but we'll see. And of course, Midwest Gaming Classic. I put a note out. I'm trying to get the organizer of Midwest Gaming on this pod, maybe in the future. Yeah, unfortunately, Dan Lucens's personal life has been in a bit of turmoil right now. But hopefully, we'll make it work at some time in the future. Well, I do not have a guest next week right now. You know, I've talked to a number of people. It's just locking that guest down and saying, this is who's coming next week. That's what I'm dealing with here. It's been a little tricky to lock down a guest lately, especially after getting Carl DeLinden on this. I just hit a rut. I don't understand. But they talking about coming on or agreeing to come on, but it's just locking down the date or committing to a date is the hang up here. So we'll have to see. I don't know who's gonna be my guest. I may not find out until Monday. And that will do it for this edition of the Crimeycade podcast. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to cover before I got out of here. Oh, I want to make sure yeah. Well, whatever. If I forgot something, I'll get it next week. I mean, we're almost at the 3 hour. We're almost at the 3 hour mark. Not counting counting the countdown actually. So I am gonna read a channel. I'm gonna refresh this a second. One of the people I usually raid said something stupid last night, and I had to call my. He's not gonna get the raid this time. I'm a little. He should know better. But I'm going to rate this guy instead. And yeah, I'm going to rate Mega Retro Man, who's playing Splatoon 3 right now. He's been going for a couple hours, so almost as long as this podcast has been going. So I'm going to rate him, and I hope to see you next week, and hope to see you around the arcade soon. So have a good night, everybody.